This is a podcast from soof.co.uk. Hello, I'm Patrick Downs. This is all about film, whether it be Blu-ray, DVD or streaming. This is Bring the Film. From award-winning director Ben Affleck, A reveals the unbelievable game-changing partnership between and then rookie Michael Jordan and Nike's fledgling basketball division, which revolutionises the world of sports and contemporary culture with the Air Jordan brand. This moving story follows the career-defining gamble of an unconventional team with everything on the line, the uncompromising vision of a mother who knows the worth of her son's immense talent, and the basketball phenomena that would become the greatest of all time. So, directed by Ben Affleck, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Messina, Matthew Mayer, Marlon Wayans, plus Chris Tucker and Viola Davis. Hello, correspondent Haley Donaghy caught up with Ben Affleck and Chris Tucker about how they enjoyed bringing the 80s to life in the film.
You know, I was 12 years old in 1984, and I feel like you're never really more in tune with like pop culture and the music that's coming out and the movies that are on and all the toys that are out when you're 12 years old. So I discovered that I'm a 1984 specialist. Like I was with the set decorators, like ordering stuff off of YouTube. I was like, no, ColecoVision. It looks like this, you know. I got obsessed with that stuff, and I'm just lucky that weirdly, you know, that period, there seems to be a kind of, I'm not an expert on contemporary pop culture probably, but it does seem to me that there's a nostalgia for that time that's kind of resurgent. So I think we benefit from that a little bit.
Absolutely. And Chris, you're already friends with the real Howard White, I understand. That's got to feel like a really special casting call to get.
You know what? It's a blessing from heaven because Howard, I called him every year, and he's one of those friends because he works with Jordan to beg him for bags and hats for my golf tournament I do for my foundation, and he never said no. It was like, you know, last minute stuff. He said, "I got you, Tuck. I got you," and that's all. You know, he's just a kind-hearted person. And when I found out that, you know, it was a role and about him, I said, "This got to be something to it." And it wasn't a lot in the script. We had to do a lot of research. And I said, you know what, Ben Affleck, and Matt Damon, and I know the guy. I love Michael Jordan. Who don't love Michael Jordan? I love sports. This got to be something to it. And I said, let's go at it. And I mean, Howard was so helpful. He took me back when he was people that knew him when he was 5 years old, up into Charles Barkley and people like that. And I talked to them, and Charles Barkley, man, Howard, he's the best, man. Let me tell you something. He's the best guy in the whole wide world. You won't meet a better guy. People calling him Confucius, and he's just always positive. I said, whoa. And this was other people talking about him. And then I had the chance to talk with him too. And because I knew him from meeting with Michael Jordan at Michael Jordan's golf tournament, but I didn't know him as a kid. And in high school, he introduced me to his teachers on the phone. I'm talking to his high school teacher, elementary teacher, basketball coach, and everybody saying the same thing. Howard was class president. Howard in a white school. I said, what? Back in the 60s. This guy is amazing and was amazing. So I put all that in, in this character. It was him, really, and it's all due to his help and Ben just shaping it and putting it on film.
Ben, I'd love to hear about those conversations with Michael Jordan himself, and particularly how he only wanted Viola Davis to play his mother.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I feel like I'm kind of taking advantage of him to try to like use him too much to advertise the movie because really I just went to him out of respect. Say, I'm not gonna do this movie if you don't want me to do it. That flat out, period. And I would love to. I've changed some things. It's not gonna be just like it happened. It's not the definitive history. It's kind of a fable in some ways. But I also didn't want to betray anything that was important to him. And he told me a couple of things. He wanted the Howard White character featured in the film, which Chris did magnificently, and he very much wanted Viola Davis to play his mother. And I thought, well, that's like kind of like saying, hey, can we get a basketball team together? And the guy goes, yeah, if you get Michael Jordan. So I knew the onus was on me to go out and try to really put something together. And it really changed the whole story. I realized, oh, this is what this movie's about. Even in that brief meeting with him, that's the thing that moved me. And this is really my interpretation of what I was moved by in my experience looking at his story. And I was blessed to have these extraordinary other storytellers come in and add to that. And when that happens, that's when you get something special. And we had a great time. And I think what I love about this movie is you can feel us having fun. This is a movie we want people to like, enjoy, find funny, to be surprised by, even though you know everything, that happens. There's a lot of the stuff that's surprising that you had no idea how they expected it to go or where things came from. So you kind of learn a lot, and I love that. And the truth is just it was the best professional experience I've had, and I'm grateful.
So directed by Ben Affleck, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Messina, Matthew Mayer, Marlon Wayans, plus Chris Tucker and Viola Davis. And our film correspondent Haley Donaghy caught up with Matt Damon and Marlon Wayans. But it was like having Ben Affleck direct.
It was great. It felt very natural, like a natural extension of kind of, all the work we've done over the years together. So much of writing and producing is kind of creative problem solving that it's all, people delineate between these jobs, but there's a lot of crossover and a lot of collaboration, no matter whether you're writing or acting or producing. So it felt very natural. It felt very easy. Amazing.
And Marlon, George Raveling, apparently one of the key people that Michael Jordan himself wanted to be in the film. So how did you feel taking on such an important role?
I felt like I needed to, even though I always hear my acting teacher tell me, like, there's no such thing as small roles, only small actors. And so I went in there like I was like I was starring in a movie. Like I literally spent hours because there was a lot of dialogue. And I like to walk on the set and I like to be prepared because when the director or people have notes, I like to be able to move and shift and not be worried about the lines. And then I like to play. So I just felt like it was such a great role. And it reminded me of some of those like Christopher Walken in like Pulp Fiction, like just like a great monologue, just something that I was just like, I want to be a part of this. And so I definitely wanted to prepare and show up and work with these heavyweights and put my best performance forward.
And Matt, I wanted to ask you, when was the last time that you had that amazing feeling that Sonny talks so much about in the film, when you just have to trust yourself and go with your instincts?
I think embarking on a career in the movie business, I think is an act of that exact thing that you're talking about. And I think anybody who does it has to have that kind of self-belief, right? Because it's a pretty crazy thing to do. And I don't know, I mean, Marlon knew he wanted to do it from a young age. I knew I wanted to do it from a young age. And I had a lot of people trying to dissuade me. And when people come up to me today, they say, well, is there any advice? Everybody told me not to do it, right? And it didn't stop me. And I think that it's a very brave choice to make for your life because you're signing up for potentially a pretty tough row to hoe. And so I think you have to definitely feel it in that way. You have to have that gut feeling.
Yeah, some of the things we ask these banks/studios to believe in us, right? I mean, when me and my brother Sean goes to Revolution and go, hey, Revolution, me and my brother want to play two white women. It was like, what? It's basically you're going off instinct. And then you're going, let me prove this theory of why this will work, not just here, but internationally. And it'll be a classic. And, you work off this instinct and this improbability that it's not going to happen. It's not going to be great. So many things can happen. But when you just trust your instincts, I think that's the closest to God you can ever be. When you prove it
So
right.
Directed by Ben Affleck, starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Messina, Matthew Mayer, Marlon Wayans, plus Chris Tucker and Viola Davis. And our correspondent Haley Donaghy caught up with Jason Bateman and Chris Messina on how he was to be involved.
It was, you never know when you do these things. You just got to do your part and hope that everyone else does theirs, and Ben really made a great one.
He really did. And Jason, I wanted to ask you actually firstly about the stats that we see on the page, stats in terms of how much they didn't have in the basketball arena before this deal was just amazing. What kind of surprised you the most about learning about the story?
Really just sort of how kind of, not haphazard, but it was, it seems like the culture there at Nike was pretty, casual and personal, and they were friends, and it was a little kind of lo-fi in how they went about things. For something that became such a massive global piece of business, it really just started, at least this particular piece, the Jordan piece, started with just 3 or 4 guys figuring out, well, is this a smart idea or a dumb idea? And like, let's just kind of roll the dice, and what's the worst thing that can happen? As he says at the end of the movie, it's just one guy. I mean, they're not going to be that successful, giving him a piece of the shoe, the profits is not going to hurt us that bad. And so that's really kind of, I don't know if charming is the right word, but it was I was surprised at how small something so big started.
Absolutely. And Chris, for you, playing that real life character, David, how much information was available to you when preparing and capturing him?
I read his book. He's got a book called The Bald Truth.
You read a book?
I did.
On this?
It was one of my first.
You do research?
Yeah.
Huh.
I watched interviews with him, and he's a fascinating guy. Super, super smart man. I think the only thing we probably have in common is we're both from Long Island. He's much
Full stop.
Yeah, he's much taller than me. He has less hair than me, and much smarter. But we weren't doing imitations of these people. It was kind of our the essence of David Falk, and kind of our interpretation of it. That's what we were going after.
And I loved that at the age of 21, I don't know how true this was, but Michael's sort of deal breaker was that red car. I was wondering for both of you, what would your kind of deal breaker sweetener be, either now or at the age of 21?
Ooh, at 21. At 21, I was very excited to do everything a 21-year-old could do as opposed to a 20-year-old. So for me, it was gambling. I went right to Vegas. I wanted to make sure I could go through all the casinos proudly with my driver's license and not worry about, my days of fake IDs. So anything that would have been exclusive to a 21-year-old would be my thing.
That sounds right. I wanted James Dean's car, even though he died in that car. I think it was the Porsche Speedster.
Yeah.
I wanted that car. I was in love with James Dean, and I wanted to anything he had.
Wasn't he only 24 years old when he died?
Something like that, yeah.
Gosh. And I was just chatting to Ben, and he was actually saying just how much fun you all had making this film. So I wanted to know, what are the best stories of you guys all working together?
I'm always terrible at remembering anecdotes, but the fact that we had a lot of fun on this job is all Ben's fault. He has a really he has such an ease and a comfort on a set, and has so much know-how that it puts everybody at ease because he knows what he wants, he knows how to get it, and you don't have to be worried about having to fix things for him or pull extra weight, because not only is he fully capable and credentialed, but everybody that he hires is at the top of their field. So, and it was just down the street from our houses. Like working in Los Angeles is a very rare treat. So the whole thing was just a pleasure. One of the best jobs I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, likewise. He uses a lot of the same people behind the camera, in front of the camera. So it was very much like a family affair. Everybody was, everybody was very jolly, very happy to be there.
It's there and it's available now. And with that, thanks for checking me out on the Bring the Film podcast today. I'm Patrick Downs, and you can keep in touch across Twitter at I'm Patrick Downs, also on Instagram, or facebook.com/officialpoptart. And there's also the website soof.co.uk. This is a podcast from soof.co.uk.